correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, a podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience. Hey folks, welcome back to Me and Steve. We're back from GamerNationCon, or well, I am. The other Steve is, well, he didn't get to go this year, much to his regret, and he's actually also not here this week, but I have a guest, and I'll get to them in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to tell you about another podcast on the D20 Radio Network, and this is actually a cast that is new to the D20 Radio Network, and I also got to meet all the hosts at GamerNationCon, although I met them all last year too. That is the How We Roll podcast. They're also on YouTube. That's actually usually where I watch/listen to them. It's a podcast. They're based out of the Dallas area in Texas, and they're a kind of a local gaming club down there, but they kind of rotate GM duties depending on what game and so on. And so you've got Daryl, Nick, and Robert are all the co-hosts of the show. Do a lot of kind of talking around, game concepts, be it, session 0 or, yeah, hey, how do you bring a new player into your group? Or, hey, what if you want a GM, moving from the player side of the table to GMing? Do a lot of talk about that, ways you can improve your storytelling as a GM or how, ways to get more fun out of gaming, which a lot like some of what we do here. So would like very much to welcome them to the network, and they're all really good people. Got to play with them a bunch at GamerNationCon. So yeah, check them out. That's How We Roll. And of course, like always, there'll be links in the show notes and all that stuff for you to find them. I do know they put out audio feeds. I'm just not sure how far they've got their hosting spread around yet. But like I said, there'll be links. You can find them. I know they're on YouTube, and everyone has YouTube. So, but as I said, GamerNationCon, and you've heard me ramble on about how much fun it is, and Steve has as well. But I got to meet some cool new people while I was there this year. Amongst them was, well, 3/5 of the cast of Tabletop Empire, which is a really cool YouTube channel, and they have a really, really good actual play going called Dark Underworld. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right.
That is correct.
So I figured it would be cool, though, as we're going to kind of talk about the convention that was, to get the perspective of someone who it was their very first GamerNationCon. Because, yeah, I talk about it, and I rant and I rave, and I tell people how wonderful it is. But I thought it would be cool to have the perspective of someone who came in and I don't know these people. So with that, Joe, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. Thanks so much for inviting me on.
Oh, not a problem. Now, like I said, I'm always kind of fascinated too, at different perspectives people have, and I know one of your castmates has been to GNC before. I don't know what or how many conversations you might have had about it, but I mean, to me, it's a convention. One, for me, it is a pile of fun, but it's not like most of the time you think of a convention, you've got the vendor halls, you stand there and talk with this creator, and then you feel bad that you didn't buy their book, but you only have so much money to go around and blah, blah, blah. GamerNationCon isn't like that, right? It is a festival of gaming. I think it's the simplest way to put it. But like I said, I'd love to hear your take, as someone walking in.
Surprised. Definitely was expecting. I've been to comic cons and anime cons, so kind of the things where you were saying, artist alley and a bunch of panels and meet the people who've voice acted for various different events or TV shows or games, what have you. And I was kind of expecting something along those lines. And Jeff, who's the cast member who has been to GamerNationCon, gave me kind of a heads up, was like, yeah, well, it's mostly gaming, expect to be doing gaming. And I was like, okay, yeah, but there's going to be rooms and different stuff. Like, yeah, you'll be playing a lot of games probably. So we got out there and I'm one who likes to jump in blind to things. So I was like,
Mhm,
yeah, probably I kind of have an idea of what to expect having been to a con, but wow, I was blown away by like GM Chris, Daryl, you, a number of the people there, just so incredibly welcoming and friendly and eager. Jody to sit down and have a conversation or just play games. Like we, me and Noah, we didn't really realize how important it would be to kind of pre-schedule events. So we kind of went in with 3 events, and that was about it for the whole weekend that we had scheduled ahead of time.
mhm,
Um, which resulted in us not really, well, which resulted in us having a lot of free time, and we were worried once we got there that we wouldn't be able to actually join into any games like that. There just wouldn't be room, and
mhm.
we ended up joining into, I want to say, like 3 additional ones where people were just so eager to, like, they noticed that we weren't doing stuff and or that we weren't around, and I was like, hey, like, do you have room for another person or two? And they were like, yeah, come on in, join us, we'd love to have you. One of the guys ended up running a 7-person game, but was so welcoming, was so inviting. He was like, "Yeah, I noticed there was more people than usual, so I just on the spot I made up a couple extra characters just to make sure that in case anyone didn't have a place to or a game to be playing in, they could do it." And I was like, "Man, like it just shows the character I feel like of the people who are coming out and playing."
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, like, I don't know how to say it other than, like, I kind of I'll explain it to people, like, think about, like, if your college had a gaming club that had just been there and, people rotate through as things in colleges happen, and then for homecoming weekend, you have this big festival, everyone's and so your gaming club gets together with everyone who's been there for the last 20 years, and I'm obviously making up numbers, but and you just play and even though you don't know that person, you know this person who knows that person, and then the next time when you come back, and it's such a, like you said, it's a warm, welcoming community, and like the other thing, it's small enough that I told someone, I said, when I when I walked into my very first Gamer Nation Con, there were 4 people in there who I had ever gamed with before. One being Steve, my co-host, another being a someone I used to game with in person years before who had come to the con, and Brett from Studio 404.
Mm.
In now 3 years of going to that convention, I have never played at a table with someone who I have not played with before. And that doesn't mean, like, I haven't played with, like, I didn't get to play with Brett at all this year. But every time I sit down at a table, there's someone who I've either played with, run a game for, or they've run a game for me. And it's just like this wild. And up until this year, I don't think I'd ever sat at a table where I'd played with everyone at the table before. So, like,
Wow.
you know what I mean? Like, but like you said, everyone is so welcoming, so friendly, and there's such a, like, okay, Star Wars and Genesis have a strong presence. So if you're into those games, it's a good con for that. I mean, amongst other things, you've got generally a couple people there at least who have worked on those properties, but that's kind of just a thing that is very strong in that community. But like there was all kinds of other games too, from a little bit of D&D, and I don't know what all you got to play, because we actually didn't get to play a game together despite hanging out a decent amount.
No, that was my biggest regret.
Well, in fairness, you did invite me to one of your games, but I already had something scheduled because I'm a madman and I pack everything up. Like I figured it out in the XP thing. I had, I think, 430 XP or something like that. And the maximum you could earn if you got credit for every hour the doors were open was 48 or
Oh
480.
my gosh. Holy cow. You put in a lot more work than I holy cow.
Well, I also GM'd 4 sessions. So,
Yes, that makes sense as well.
but yeah, so like, I mean, what all did you get to? I know you ran at least one session. What all did you get to have fun with?
Yeah, so we showed up and, I think the first one that we did was, Pokenfeld with, Andrew from Dicey Cantina,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, and, that was a really arguably one of the best games we played. What an amazing job he does as a DM. Really kind of like pulls you in. I got to play in that on I believe Thursday night. I'm baffled. I can't fully remember the days,
Oh,
but
it does. It runs together so much.
what else? We did the Rad Batch, and
Oh,
I'm
with
I'm
Darren?
blanking on the DM's name.
Darren
Darren,
Zorg.
man. Oh, the miniatures he painted for that were so cool, and the way that he GMs is so encouraging of the players. It's interesting because you get to see a bunch of different GM styles, right?
Mhm.
And I think that kind of stuck out to me, especially as somebody who, while I've played about at this point 11 episodes worth
Mm,
of Star Wars, right? But I don't
mhm.
fully understand the system. I didn't, at least when we started, didn't fully understand the system. But by the end of it, I felt very comfortable with, at least a lot more comfortable with Genesis and the Star Wars RPG, where I was like, wow, like you said, there's a very strong presence of it, and I was amazed at how much I at how well they do, or how engaging it is for players to be able to adjust the narrative and story through seeing other people DM, and even just the difference between Andrew and Darren, where it's like, man, like Andrew really focused on like the storytelling and this kind of mystery that was going on, and Darren kind of focused on this exciting, like, oh, we gotta get out of here,
Mhm.
and really kept up that like pacing and feel of like there's a little bit of tension and why are you guys here? What's going on? You gotta leave.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm doing a great job of describing
Oh,
that, but
no, that's well, see, now, interesting, I've actually never gotten to play with Andrew either as sit at the same table with him. I have been a player alongside Darren, and I actually my very first game at GamerNationCon, Darren was one of my players, and I've had Darren on the show once or twice. I don't remember now. He's a really cool dude, like you said, engaging, and yeah. But like, yeah, well, I think Genesis. I mean, and I won't go into the story, but Genesis was actually kind of a direct result of something that happened at a previous Gamer Nation con. Because the origins of the con, right, are around the Order 66 podcast, thus heavy Star Wars, and I know Phil has worked on official Star Wars products. Keith Capel, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it this year because of airplane problems. Well, not weather, like he literally, I think he said he sat on the runway in Chicago for like 4 hours before they pulled him off the plane, and then the flight got canceled, and he ended up like just no.
that's horrible. Oh,
But yeah, so I mean, it is, but like that, there's a lot of people at that convention who have really, really embraced that narrative dice, and it is a different system to play when you kind of get your head around it, and like the way I kind of explain it is decide what it is you want to do, and then we'll figure out how to roll for it. You
yep.
know what I mean? And coming if you're coming from particularly like a kind of a traditional D&D background, that's like kind of the opposite. I want to roll this and you tell me what I did. No, no, no. This game works the other way. You tell me what you did and we'll figure out how effective it was by rolling something.
Yes, yes. So different, I feel like. I got back and I genuinely felt so much more comfortable after playing a bunch of games with it, that I ran a small, I bought the Star Wars like one shot box and ran it for my wife and was Escape from Mos Shuta, whatever it is, and
Okay.
my wife and two of her friends, and she was like, "Well, I want to do this specific skill." I'm like, "Well, what are you trying to do? Tell me what you're trying to do, and we'll see if you need to use that skill for, right?" And they loved the flipping of the destiny tokens back and forth. They're like, "Wow, this is really interesting. This is a great mechanic," especially since it's something that D&D is not really in there. Like, there's no, "Hey, I want to can I flip one or two destiny tokens to influence the scene in this way?" And I feel like it keeps the players more engaged, right? Because
It
now they're like, "Oh, what can I do to shift the story in my character's advantage?"
Well, and I think too, one thing with that system in general, and it probably, I know you played with it obviously, and gee, shock, your YouTube thing is recorded online, and you're in how many different places, but when you play that game at the table, everyone is looking at every dice roll. Like
Yep.
the table is so much more tightly engaged. It's not like where D&D, a lot of games, oh, it's not my turn, so I'm gonna, check my messages or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, no.
Everyone is, plus the initiative and yeah,
I
but
mean, I
it
love
is.
the initiative.
Oh, that is so good. I could there's so many little nuggets of design in that game that I think are just brilliant. Like even down to, in Star Wars, the obligation thing in the Edge of the Empire. All that, to me, okay, yes, there's mechanical. That is a way as a GM for your players to telegraph you what they want to do in the game, but it's not said that way.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what
it
I mean?
convinces. Yeah, it's like, hey, I'll get experience points if I write a little bit of backstory, and I want, hey, I'm hunted, or I'm whatever it is, And now as a GM, you're like, oh, okay, so you want to be hunted, you want some people coming. Like, okay, I got you. I can do, like I can write that out and incorporate it into the story when the obligation triggers.
Yeah, and it, like, I don't know. To me, that was, and plus to Star Wars, that whole system to me feels like this weird mishmash of kind of that indie design ethos of here, come have my fun with me, and having the backing to do a bigger, more polished thing than most indie design houses are capable of. Because even when it was Fantasy Flight, they were a bigger entity than your typical, you know, uh, Evil Hat probably isn't a good comparison, but some small, 2-person indie design house.
Yeah.
But yeah, so boy, yeah, I mean, but to go back a little bit to the convention, because well, as conversations happen on this podcast, they often go down to rabbit trails. Um, so like what did I do? So I actually was running a session 1 o'clock Thursday. So like walk in the door, go find the table, sit down, start setting up basically. Um, and I ran Slay Industries, which is, boy, the world is interesting. The system is different. And I got a lot more of a handle on it and I got to see it a little better because I'd run it previously at a local convention once, but I got a lot more grasp of how the system works. And it's neat because it's crunchy, but in a way that's like meant to be manipulated to the player's advantage. Like there's tons of ways that as a player you can give yourself rerolls and stuff. It's really
Okay.
neat. Without getting into the weeds of details, but like for example, if you use auto fire on your weapon, it's harder to hit, but you can re-roll your dice.
That's interesting. It's called Slay Industries.
Yeah, yeah. I may have showed you the screen because it's got amazing artwork. It's also
Oh, you did.
the same company that puts out the Terminator RPG.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, and you showed me the book too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful art for that.
Oh, it is. Yeah, Dave Allsup's artwork is amazing. But that was fun, and everyone seemed to have a good time with it. The only thing that was a little frustrating in a way is because it's this kind of very unique world concept and unique system. There was a lot of exposition at the start, like you spend half an hour, 45 minutes explaining characters and world and system because no one knows.
Yeah.
But everyone had fun with it, so that was good.
I'd I'd love to give that one a shot for sure. I'd
Oh,
have to probably look into it a little bit more to better understand the rules, but that looked like a really cool setting.
the setting is amazing, and it's kind of one of those where part of me would like to port it to a different rule set. Not that the one that's there is bad, just that it's not as hard to grasp as you think initially. But
Mm.
when you start getting into the details of it, like, oh well, if I charge, it does this, and the way it lets you manipulate what you can do, it's interesting. Is the simple way to put it. The resolution system on the surface is really simple. It's a D10 used much like the D20 in D&D.
Okay.
Or if you've ever played Cyberpunk Red or Cyberpunk 2020,
Yeah.
you add your attribute, your skill ranks, and roll a D10 and add it all together, trying to meet a target number. However, you also roll skill dice alongside that, which are reflective of the number of ranks you have in that skill. And so the success die, which is like your initial one, basically determines whether you succeed or fail. But how many of your skill dice with the same modifiers applied meet your target number is basically like degrees of success.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I was definitely thinking it was like the skill dice would get added on to it or something, but
No, they're all individual, which is a little weird for people to comprehend because most people, when you roll a handful of dice, you think I add them together. No, they're all individual dice. But here's the fun part with this is if you have at least 4 skill dice and you automatically get 1 plus however many ranks you have in the skill, if you roll and 4 of your skill dice succeed, but your success die doesn't, it's still a basic success.
Hmm.
So you theoretically miss, but you can still hit in a combat context. And again, in a combat context, we'll just say in combat, your base difficulty is 10. So we'll
Okay.
say you get your success die and 3 skill die, all meet or beat 10 with the modifiers. You then you get a damage bonus. But like I said, if for example, you have 4 skill dice, your success die doesn't make a 10, but all 4 of your skill dice do, it's just a basic hit with no extra damage. So it rewards you having the higher skill. I think they call it success through experience or something, but it's a neat concept. But again, when you're teaching people the system that are brand new, it's a little bit mind bending.
Learning curve.
Right. Like once people grasp it, they were like, "Oh, okay, now I get it." But it took a number of people a little bit of time to kind of get their head around. Oh, okay, that's how it works. Because, like you said, people just want to add them together. No, 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 no. We don't do that in this game. But yeah, so that was fun. Um, I know you, based on Noah, your GM for Dark Underworld, also he
Nate's
put
the
up like
GM.
Noah. Yeah, right. They're both ends.
I've done it before. Don't worry.
He put up a video kind of vlogging the whole thing from travel and everything. I know he put up you guys got to play a bunch of board games and stuff too?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of just kinda drop-in board games. We Noah and I looked at it and we're like, "Okay, there's a massive" if you haven't been there, there's a massive wall of board games, and it kinda goes around a corner, like an L-shaped corner, and on either side of, like, this hallway, it's just it's a hallway, so on either side of the hallway, there's board games lining the walls, and it goes around this L-shaped corner, and we looked at it, and they were all alphabetically, arranged, and we were like, "Well, what if we tried to go from, like, A to Z?" And we got to, I think, H. We didn't really get as far as we were expecting to, but, we were trying, we were going, and we are like, "Okay, we'll just play as many games as we can," and we ended up playing a number of the letters multiple times, but,
Oh, yeah.
um
Well, see, that's the thing too, right? Like, you walk in the place and you're like, "Oh, there's quite a few board games." And then you go around the corner.
and you're like, "Oh, there's a lot of board games."
I think somebody got a count. I think they have over 3,000 titles in their library.
Amazing. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah. Like, there's everything literally from chess to Gloomhaven.
Yep. We actually I pulled out Gloomhaven. So it's a funny pull that you said that one. That's a good
But
game.
it I mean, I played a little bit of Munchkin Panic, and I think I played a little bit of Talisman at one point too. Although I much more focus on RPGs than board games personally. But like you said, the board games are so great because if like for you where you didn't have the event scheduled, you grab a board game, look at a couple people, go, "Hey, you want to play?" and you can almost always find people who are like, "Sure."
Oh my gosh, yeah. We don't I don't think I think there was one Cthulhu game that me and Noah played by ourselves, but other than that, really like we had people we'd played games with before came and like sat down and played with us. People who we kind of like vaguely knew or like had seen around were willing to like play with us and just like show up and play. So it really felt like oh we never really felt like it was like, "Oh, well, there's only 2 of us, we gotta play a two-person game," you know? It was always like, "Oh, well, we can play this other game or this whatever game this is." 2 games kinda stuck out. One of them was like Coffee Rush, which was recommended to us. I'm so bad at names. By a couple of the people there, and then the Great Split, which was a drafting game, which just looked absolutely beautiful. I was like, "Wow, I've never heard of these games before," and, yeah, I've got, like, 80 games in my personal library, so it's not a lot, but it's one of those things where if nobody else is board games, you're like, "Oh, I'm the board game guy."
And then you walk in there and you're like because
Just nothing.
depending on the version of the story you hear, that place actually started as a private collection that outgrew the owner's basement.
Which is, I mean, that's the goal, right? Like, isn't that the dream?
Right? But yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like it's one of those things. Like for me at this point, that is the one out of town convention I go to. I have
Yeah.
a local convention here. I'm in the Pittsburgh area, and we have a local gaming convention that I go to, partially because I've become friends with all three of the main organizers, and it's just a good time. And it's 40 minutes from my house to the convention hall.
Yeah, it's not a
And
bad
that's
drive
because of
for fun.
traffic. It's not, you know, but GamerNationCon is my out of town foray. In fact, GamerNationCon is the only time I've gotten on a plane this century.
You know what? That's fair.
Not because I don't like flying or what. I've just never had reason to. But Texas is a long way from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's a long way. We're from I'm Virginia, so it's a long way from Virginia as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
But it's definitely on my list of places to visit again next year. I know that. I know that for sure. We was talking with Noah and Nate, and we want to. We really want to. We're not 100% sure, finances and everything, but if we're able to, it's like, man, we'd love to go back and play games. And we were talking with GM Chris, and he was like, yeah, you know, would you be thinking about like DMing stuff? I'm like, oh, I'd love to. I was thinking. I left and was like, I've got some ideas, and then I really like 2 nights ago, it kind of hit me. I was like, "Oh, I've got like an idea for a Star Wars game." And yeah, obviously I've only DM'd it once at this point, but I'm like, "Oh, I've got an idea," and look forward to seeing how people react. I think that's one of the coolest things. I got to DM a very completely improvised game while I was there with people who I didn't know 2 days beforehand, and had such a blast. And man, what a fun experience it was.
Yeah, I heard some about that game. A lot of people said it was wild and crazy and a whole lot of fun. Um,
I'm glad that's what they were saying. It could have been a lot worse.
Because I know you, like, at one point you ran into me in the hallway. You're like, "Are you doing anything? I'm running an improvised game." I'm like, "Sorry, I got a thing." I don't remember what night, when that was and what it was I was doing, but um, yeah, and like also, boy, the gamers there are just so much fun to play with. Like the other players at the table, like everyone is very like. Look, you can get the trolls anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But I've never been at a situation at that convention where there was someone at the table who just like didn't jive, so to speak. You know what I mean? Who was doing the things making everyone else cringe or whatever. And I've run games there that were very madcap improv, you know, and everyone just picks up and runs from everyone else. And it's just so much fun to sit down with these people that or maybe you know them a little bit, but maybe you just met them, and yet you have a good time like people that have been gaming together for years.
Yeah, we got to I got to plan a betrayal at House on the Hill Genesis game that Nate had run with a number of the players who I didn't know. And we were role playing and like doing the accents, and it was such a fun time. Again, like you said, people that I did not know. I knew Jody from playing 2 other games with her before, but that
Mm-hmm.
was it. And it was like, oh, this is fun to be able to play with them and role play, and just get into character and have a good time without worrying about anything else. And everyone was very like, oh yeah, we can do this. We can do the accents. We'll do the voices. We'll play make believe for a little while with you, somebody who like kind of like being a kid. As a
Mm-hmm.
kid, you could go up to people and be like, "Oh, we're pirates now," and then everyone's playing pirates or whatever. And it was like it's kind of like that, where you sit down at the table like, "Oh, what's my character? Oh, okay, I'm playing the old priest guy. All right, well, I can do this accent, and now I'm in character, and everyone else is doing their characters and their voices, and it was just such a blast.
Right? Yeah. And the other thing, and I, excuse me, the other thing and I shared this with a few people at the convention, that convention has helped me so much with my GM anxiety, because I know you run games a little bit, and most people that I know that run games any amount, we all have this sense of doubt of, is everyone having fun, or are they just being nice, or whatever. And like the first year I went down there, I was a nervous wreck. Like I was running games, but I'm like, are they just gonna, because I'm a, yeah. Okay, look, little clue for everyone out there in listener land. Just because you're a podcast host doesn't mean you know what the hell you're doing. Okay? We're human just like everyone else. But like what are people's expectations and am I going to do a good job and all this stuff? And I mean, I had a blast, right? And everyone said they had fun and blah blah blah. But that little voice in your head goes, "Oh yeah, they're just telling you that to be nice, whatever." So then I went back for the second year, and I had a number of people who I had played with previously who only knew me from having played with me at this convention sign up to play with me again. And
That's a
it's
good
like,
sign.
okay, it was a way for me to like go, okay, I can turn that voice off at least just a little bit because these are people who have multitude of other choices, as you saw, right? There's how many games
Oh
going at
yeah.
once there, and they chose to play with me again. So I'm doing something right.
And to speak into that, Steve, your table always looked like a really fun table to be like, because it's an open space, so I could kind of see what was going on, and just to hear you in the groups that you were playing, it was always like, oh man, like he looks like somebody who's having a fun time. Like it's like being like you could just tell. You can look at somebody and you're like, that's a fun person. Like that's a fun person, and you had that vibe, especially when you're DMing or GMing. It's like you're doing a good job. I wasn't part of it, but I could tell from the reactions of the players, you know?
Yeah, I think too, like for me anyway, especially if I'm running the game, I'm zoned in on my table so much that like yes, I'm reading their body language, but to hear that as someone who was observing from, a couple tables away, that's cool. So thank you. Um I wish I could say, but like I said, I zone in or try to because if I don't, I'm like, like Steve, what are you doing? What?
The ADHD kicked in.
you know, so yeah, but like I said, I did hear. Actually, I think it was Darren was telling me that they had a lot of fun in your or not Darren, Daryl, because I think he played in your improv thing.
Daryl, yes, Daryl played in it. Yep.
Um, So yeah, they said that was a lot of fun, and I think they said the way you kind of like everyone like co-created the world and the plot and everything they thought was really neat, and kind of the way you took the narrative dice and just sort of adapted them very quickly and simply they thought was really cool.
I again had not DM'd for this system before, like with the narrative dice at all before that. But I was like, oh, I feel again, large in part because of the other DMs that like or the GMs there that I had a modicum of understanding, right? And that I could
Hmm.
put that into something to run and play and man, I was that was fun, but like you were saying, I look back on it and I'm like, man, I did a horrible job. I'm like, that was, oh, I don't know if that was my best moment at all.
But the other thing that I tell people, and I this is something that I struggle with a lot, right? I do the exact same thing. Oh, I should have done this, I this that, and to put it in like a baking metaphor because to me it's the simplest way to explain it. As a GM, you're trying to make this amazing chocolate lava cake. And in your opinion, what you ended up with at the table was this pretty damn cool brownie. Okay? Now, brownies are awesome first, okay? But the thing you have to remember as a GM is your players just know they got a really cool brownie. They don't know that you were thinking these other things and they got a really cool brownie and they're stoked.
That's fair. And you know what? Like they did a really good job of coming up with some really interesting worlds and environments. And like that itself for me was so sad if I was because when I run that, I'll do this thing where I'm like, okay, all up to the players, right? So I don't know what's coming. I don't know what the world's gonna be. I don't know what the environment's gonna be. I don't know what the story's gonna be, right? So like it could be a comedy, it could be romance, no idea, right? And they put so much interesting and unique elements into it that it was a lot of fun for me to play with and yeah. They did such a great job, really.
Oh, but see, that's the other thing. And like people talk about this and that and like, oh, Matt Mercer, this, that, because Critical Role is the thing. And look, Matt is a great game master. But the other thing that I think people lose when they talk about that, he's got a table of actors, right? And not only are they actors, most of them they've been friends for years, so they know if if I put this out there, someone else is going to pick it up and run with it. There's that trust, so to speak. And so, in a sense, Matt is conducting the orchestra, but they're playing the instruments. And yes, it takes skill and talent to conduct an orchestra, but in the end, and I don't know your musical background from, the monitor sitting over there in the corner, but you could get the greatest symphony conductor in the world to conduct you, me, and some guy off the street, and it's still going to sound like crap.
Yep.
Where if you get, you know, three, professional orchestra musicians and me trying to conduct them, it's going to sound probably better than a good conductor trying to conduct me, but it's still not going to sound great. But if you have average conductor and average musicians, it sounds better than either of those two.
Yep.
Does that make any sense? I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
rambling or
no, it does, because like we look at it's so easy to look at Critical Role, right? Or like Brennan Lee Mulligan, right? Like any of these people who are on like the more improvisational and very story focused stuff that has like a million views or more, and be like, wow, I want to be able to do that. But I don't sound like that. My voice doesn't. I can't make the accents, or I don't spend the hours of effort and time, surely, that Matt Mercer is putting into like build out a story. And like realistically, I have a full time job, and
right?
then I'm doing Dark Underworld and other stuff as hobbies to in my free time. So I don't have hours and hours to spend to come up with an elaborate world in the way that he has, which is not a bad thing at all. That's amazing and it's great. And it's so cool that people are able to do it, but it's like, if you can't do that, that's okay, right? D&D, it's a community and it's a collaborative storytelling.
Right. Right. Yeah. It is. And I think a lot of people lose that. They especially when you're new, right? You think, "Oh, it's gonna be." Well, it can be. But, that's the difference between the Olympics and a high school track meet.
Yeah.
Like like no knocking anybody, right? But like Critical Role are professionals yes, it started out as a home game and etc., but they were still people using skills that they use professionally to have fun, and we're just hobbyists.
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't mean our fun is any less fulfilling, but it's not realistic to expect the same thing out of yourself that a professional does.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I run D&D for 2 guys who work at Lowe's, a guy who pours concrete, and, people who are going to school. And, like, none of them are professional voice actors, and I don't expect that from them.
But if you have fun, that's all that matters.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know. That's just like I said. I think too many people new to the hobby hold themselves to an unnecessarily high standard.
Yeah.
Um,
It's have fun, like, you the second you get it's about getting out of your own head and getting into the head of the character, or at least for me, right? Where it's like, I get to experience 4 hours, 3 and a half, right, depending upon the game,
mhm.
of escape from reality, from, worrying about bills or, real life woes or issues, and instead I get to play this character who's just a dumb goblin or a grand wizard or whatever it is, like a character who's a Jedi Knight in space. Like, it's like, "Oh, I get to focus on this," and that's a
Right.
lot of fun, and I don't have to worry about, Joe's real life problems.
Well, like, and see, for me, I tell people, I think, I like playing some darker, grittier, be it Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green, whatever. I like that stuff, but I think some of it is, it's not the escapism so much. It's that, how do I want to say this? It's the freedom to make the suboptimal decision without actually having to deal with the consequences of it. Like, sure, maybe my character gets dead or goes insane or bad awful things happen. That's just a character on a piece of paper in my imagination.
Yeah.
I am perfectly fine after that, and seeing that can be, I don't know if it's what it is, but like it is an escape, right? Like you it's making the decision that you kind of always want to, but either know you can't or don't dare to, but you get to.
It's those intrusive thoughts that you don't ever get to, like, you can't let them win in real life, but on the paper, when you're playing, an investigator in Call of Cthulhu, you're like, yeah, open the door, go in the basement. Let's find out what's down there.
Right. And you justify it to yourself because that's what, this person I'm playing should or would do. But the excitement to me is that I get to get the thrill without the risk of the dismemberment.
Yeah. Or seeing some eldritch deity like coming out of the sky. It's like, oh, I don't have to worry
Right.
about that in real life.
But like you were saying too, though, to go again to circle back into the convention, you were talking about feeling the confidence to run something with narrative dice for the first time. So I actually ran Genesis for the first and second time ever at the convention.
Really?
I had dabbled with Star Wars a little bit, but I never actually run Genesis. And because I'm a madman, I decided, well, we can't just do something normal. We're going to run Finding Bigfoot.
Oh, that sounds fun.
So, but like, it's no fun. Well, not no fun. Finding Bigfoot is a hilarious television show, by the way, if anyone's never watched it. But my brain went to, what would be more fun than people running around trying to find Bigfoot is if I have one side of the table be people looking for Bigfoot and the other side of the table be Bigfoot.
That's very interesting.
And so basically, it was this thing where I set up actually two Destiny pools, one between the two sides of the table and one between the table and me as the GM. Because so much of what was going on is it wasn't combat, but it was player versus player interaction. So, hey, I'm going to make you upgrade that, or I'm going to upgrade, So I wanted that economy to go back and forth between them, but also have it there for, oh, hey, I'm going to make it a really nasty thunderstorm, so I flip a Destiny point. And this again, like you were talking about how good the people are to play. I ended up basically just starting them off and then watching most of the game. Or going, okay, well, that sounds like this kind of roll. Roll this against this. But like what actually happened, I basically went, oh, yeah, you're in the mountains of Northern California, which, by the way, is a really convenient place to start that because you go, think of Endor and Return of the Jedi, because that's actually where it was filmed.
Oh.
Like those were literally forests in Northern California that were then, I think they were logged off between the time they filmed and when the film was released. So like,
really?
Yeah. Like they were scheduled for logging and the logging was delayed to let them finish filming.
Oh my, I had no idea. That's crazy. Holy cow.
Yeah. But like it instantly gives the players an idea of where you're at, right?
Yep.
And it was super easy because, well, Star Wars is pretty ubiquitous and especially there.
Yeah, very well known.
But, and that was cool too, because the first time I ran it, I think the one player was 9 years old. And it was great. And I had actually played with, so that person and their family come as a group, and I had actually run a game for them 2 years ago. Not that child, but their older child. And so I know you're into Call of Cthulhu a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So I was running Delta Green, and this 12-year-old comes up and sits down at the table as we're getting set up. And again, this was my first GamerNationCon, and that is a panic-inducing moment as a GM. And now one of their parents was there, and I'm like, you do understand, what kind of game this is. This one isn't getting super weird, but it's still like, oh, no, it's fine. We understand. We're good. Turns out the kid was one of the best players at the table. No knock on anyone else, but the kid was like fully into it. Great player. And so it was like, oh, okay, but yeah, that was fun. And everyone also very much in that, where I kind of said, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but yes, it's PvP, but it's more like you're basically messing with each other. You're not like, it's not combat, it's interaction. And everyone immediately picked up the spirit and just ran with it and had a blast, and like the Bigfoot stole their cameras, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And ended up the second time I ran it for Daryl and a bunch of his crew, and now I think I have to write a sequel because, yeah.
Hey, that's a good problem to have, though.
Oh, it
You have
is.
to be
It
writing a
is.
sequel.
Yeah, because now they have to go break into the secret government base that they don't know where it is.
That's honestly, that sounds like a really fun game. Like, that sounds
It,
really interesting. Like, oh,
well, and like the reason I went to Genesis with it, well, two reasons. One, I was originally intending to run it in a custom designed derivative of Havoc Brigade, which is a whole long story. Like, I
okay.
was basically writing my own system based on Havoc Brigade. And then I realized I don't have time to get this finished. So the way the narrative dice work is very simple to do opposed rolls. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's oh, what's your pool? What's your pool? Okay, roll this. The other thing was, and this goes to what you were talking about. I figure if I'm going to do weird stuff or stuff with Genesis, and I'm not the most comfortable with the rules as they are, like I know how the dice work and I understand all that. But if I have rules questions, there's a whole lot of people at that convention I can ask quickly.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, and everyone, like, I've never really sat. I'm sure you've been in games where you have those rules debates and they spiral.
Oh, out of
I've
control.
I've never had that happen there. Everyone is just like, oh yeah, it's like and it just flows. But at the same point, it, it's all those where if as a GM you have a question, you go, well, I think we'll do it this way. Is everyone cool with that? And everyone kind of looks at each other. Yeah, no, that sounds good to me. And you just keep going. But if you need clarification on something, everyone's happy to help, but isn't like overbearing with it, which is cool.
Yeah, and it makes you feel like, "Oh, okay, I even if I don't know the rules fully, like, everyone else is gonna be able to pick up my slack in that area," right? And it doesn't even feel like slack at that point, it just feels like they're all like, "Hey, we wanna get you involved. We want you to be able to understand the game and play with us at the same level, almost."
Yeah, yeah. Like it's very much a mutual uplifting as opposed to, oh, I'm better at this than you.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So, all right. Well, we've already gone on for quite a while. Um, any more thoughts you have as to having attended Gamer Nation Con for the first time? Um, just,
I think
thoughts. What would you tell someone if they were thinking about coming?
I would say that if they enjoy spending 3 to 4 days playing board games and tabletop RPGs, with more of a focus on tabletop RPGs, they should give it a shot. It's a lot of fun, and especially if you're a chill gamer, you should make your way out there and just go. Because boy, did I have a lot of fun. I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, and I'm so glad that I went, and I'm so glad that I got to meet you and so many others that I'm now able to be like, "Oh, I've got these friends now all over the place." And I look forward to playing with you guys again and just again, being able to play with you, hopefully, at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Maybe get something together online if we can make schedules work or something.
oh, yeah,
Um,
dude, yeah.
So I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit. You want to take a minute to talk about Tabletop Empire and Dark Underworlds and all that?
Oh,
Now, there is, just so everyone else knows, at some point we're going to get Nate and maybe some more of the cast, and who knows, to do a full episode talking about it. But let me put it to y'all this way. I didn't, I had not watched any of their content before I got to the Gamer Nation Con. I am now waiting for the next episode to drop, which I believe, without looking at a calendar, I think Nate said the 22nd y'all are back.
no, so, due to some, I guess, scheduling stuff that's had to happen, it'll be, I think, the 13th of next month, so it'll be a little bit of a
Oh,
longer wait than we want it to be, but we've
well,
begun recording, so we've just recently recorded, one of the episodes, and next week we'll be recording another one, so we're chugging away at it.
oh, you know, eh, as someone who does the editing and stuff for a podcast, it's amazing how much time that takes on the back end, and I don't have to deal with video.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is really just Nate going through and our editor, Nate and Simon, the two of them, they go through and they go and edit the whole thing. They cut out a lot of the ums and the uhs and everything else. Yeah, the stuff that's not important. There's if I mean, if people want to, like, they can see the whole unedited, but we cut it all down to being roughly around an hour and a half an episode to try and we respect your time and we know you don't want to listen to us do random dumb stuff that's not relevant to the plot or just say a lot of like how does this rule work, like type of stuff that's not as interesting or engaging maybe.
Right, but at the same point, for me, it also, as someone listening slash watching it, it doesn't feel overly polished, and I mean that as a compliment. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
it feels like a very authentic table experience. Yeah, there's, like you said, you're cutting out some of the ums, that type of stuff. You're cutting out the non-relevant stuff. Like you said, you to a certain point, you want to respect your listeners' time, but it's been very enjoyable for me, and I really enjoy your character and kind of the levels to him that are there, and I feel like given the arc that it concluded, I feel like there's a whole another door that could open there. You know what I mean? Like, without spoiling anything for anybody.
We'll see what happens. I play a Toydarian on it, who's just kind of a grimy character who seems to seemingly only cares about himself. I don't know how much to say, but
I
uh,
mean, that's up to you. Like I said, I initially he very much read that way to me, and as even the 10 episodes that have been released, you kind of start to see it's that, but there's reasons, but he's not just that, but he kind of is, but there's cracks in that. Like I said, I've really enjoyed it, and like like you and your Wookiee buddy, and then you kind of have the kind of dynamic between the other two characters, and then that's gradually there's becoming the dynamics individually between all four of you, and it's fun and entertaining and interesting.
we try. I when we kind of had our session zero for it, it was like, well, what do we want to make sure that is being conveyed? And I was like, well, we all want to have fun, right? And that was, I think, the biggest thing for us. And I love this. I love the story side of characters. So being able to find a character and see them be go on like a journey of either self discovery or self growth, what have you. I think is always very interesting. And that growth or discovery might not be good. I'm just as happy with bad growth and discovery as I am with good growth and discovery for a character. But yeah, so for me at least, looking at my character's name is Mott. I've been trying very hard to be like, okay, well, how does this moment affect the character? How does whatever is happening currently in the plot relate to what he knows is true, and how will that shift or adjust it? Like I think that's been a lot of fun to play, and I mean, I'm very excited to see what happens in the next portion because again, we're not like scripting it out, so we don't know. I have no idea what's to come. Where it's very much all right, Nate, whatever you're the DM, right? Whatever you do, don't tell me, don't give me any spoilers because I want to have fun playing. I want to be a player, and I think a lot of the fun for it, hopefully at least, is that none of us know, and we're all going into it just as much with a bit of surprise as you guys are.
Well, and I think that but you just encapsulated to me the fun of role playing games, right? And specifically, like you said, a character where you get to experience the story and then think, well, how does this story affect this character? Like it's mutually interactive, right? It's not just you're going through the story, but what impact does that have? And I really like the way that you and the rest of the cast have kind of played into that side of things where, it's not and I won't go into the rant I have about this because it'll take forever, but like I am so over people going, oh, I have this character build. No, no, no. You start with a character and then you go into the world and then the world shapes you as you shape it. It's not it's not an MMO. It's not
Yeah, oh
World of
yeah.
Warcraft where you follow this this stat this talent tree to get this specific thing. So stuff's going to happen and change what that character's priorities are. And to me, that's the fun and the discovery. And quite frankly, I very happy and really enjoyed seeing that element of y'all's game in that regard, because it does seem very much that like the story is molding your characters as they progress.
I mean, even like you were saying, even in the progress, like even when it comes to buying experience and skills, Jeff's kind of been a big proponent of this. He plays Keenan on it, but he's been pushing that when we level up our character, buy skills, buy the experience point or the
Spend
talents.
XP. Yeah.
Yeah, when we spend XP, that we do so from the frame of, well, what has happened to the character currently? And does this make sense for them to get whatever it is? Like, would it make sense that Mott needs to or would be growing in these areas, right?
Right.
And I think that's a really fun way to play, and it's easy to power game things. Like, let's be, like, real. Like, yeah, you could sit down at D&D, and it's like, if you're just gonna power game, there's a right answer. There's 100% a right answer for what class and race you should pick if you just want a power game playing a paladin or a wizard or whatever, it's like, "Well, I'm gonna build this build." But
Mhm.
then you're not playing a character, right? Where's the flaw? Where's the humanity in that, right? And I think that for me, when it was okay, well, what am I going to build for this character? It wasn't what am I going to build for the character. It was what's the grimiest looking like species in Star Wars outside of being like a hut, and then and then going from there and being able to see them grow and play. It's just been so much fun.
Yeah. So like, yeah, go check them out. It's Tabletop Empire on YouTube. There'll be a link in the show notes. Like I said, we're kind of trying to work on, getting Nate the GM and perhaps Joe back and maybe some of the others. I also want to get Jeff on to talk about sessions because, well, sessions is the one VTT that doesn't intimidate me.
It's so easy to use too, and that's a
Oh, it really
like
is.
Yeah, I'm saying anything bad about other ones, but I love using RPG sessions. It just makes it so much easier. There's a fun little like display when you get a triumph on the screen. It's like, oh, I like I oh, a triumph. There's a
Yeah.
lot that feels user friendly.
Yes. It's to me, it does everything I need it to do, and then stays out of the way until I need it again.
That's a great way of describing it.
Like Roll20 is good, but I am forever going, okay, which tab, which button, which this, which that.
Yeah, it's a lot, and the people who know it well. And as a guy who casually plays on the internet, right? Like I prefer to play in person, but I've been known to dabble. Roll 20, Roll 20 is still a bit of a okay. What am I doing? And it's almost a language barrier. I feel like when it comes to playing the game, because yes, you can play D&D, you can convey what's happening, but it feels like it's taking a little bit longer, and not quite everything is making as much sense as I would like it to all the time.
Well, and the other thing that for me with like Roll20 and to a certain point sessions, depending if you want to use all the targeting and stuff. As the GM, if you want your players to be able to use the targeting, you do have to have stuff preloaded in there.
Yeah.
But it's very simple also to just go, oh no, you're okay. Your difficulty's this. Roll this skill, and so it's been a little bit since I've actually played anything on sessions, but it's very simple. You just okay. Oh, it's two reds, a purple, and a black. So you click red, purple, black, roll.
Yep. It's just not hard.
And as someone who is a bit improv heavy as a GM for like Roll20, it's like, oh, now I have to spend how many hours putting all these things that I might need in. And yes, I only have to do that once and I could use it over and over again, but I still have to do that. And getting my attention span and my time to cooperate to do that is sometimes a bit daunting.
Yeah, as a more improv focused and not prep time focused GM, RPG sessions looks a lot easier for me to be able to incorporate into online sessions where it's like, well, yeah, all you got to do is this and show up and look at the screen and then push the
Right.
buttons connected to what your skill is.
And it's real easy, from the player side to build your characters and stuff too. So
Yeah, I've been like test building out characters recently. I seriously, I feel like I have a much better understanding of RPGs of the Star Wars RPG and Genesis since I went to the con. It's crazy. I'm like, I got back and was like telling my wife, I'm like, listen, I get it now. I'm like, I feel like I understand, not fully. There's still stuff I'm not fully aware of how the rules work, but I'm like, I feel confident, and it's
It is though. That's a system too, though. That like for me, trying to read the rules and understand them, I'm like going, huh? What this? Okay, I think once I got to play it, I was like, oh, it's not nearly as complicated as that book made it sound.
It is. There's something about like and maybe it's just me, but like there's something about seeing it and sitting down at the table, physically sitting down at the table there, that made it just click. Again, I've played 10 episodes worth of Star Wars, and then sitting down at the table, suddenly it just all clicked, and I was like, oh, oh, oh. Now I get it. Now I understand how the game works.
Well, but I think like even just the simple like, oh, you pass a boost die and being able to slide that blue die across the table, there's something about it, like you said, it does. It clicks even more in person. Now I got lucky and my first experience actually playing with narrative dice was actually Genesis with GM Chris running it. It was online. But yeah, like I said, if you're curious about Star Wars and Genesis, GamerNationCon is also great because you've got a lot of great minds in the system that are there all the time.
Mm.
All right. Well, anything else you want to plug if you have any little side projects, anything you think people ought to check out?
Check out Tabletop Empire and give us a watch. Hopefully you'll enjoy it.
I did.
It's the best I got.
All right. All right. Well, with that, it's time for a little segment we call Game of the Week.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
So I kind of gave you a quick briefing of about how this works. If you'd like, I'll go first so you get a little more of a feel for it since it's kind of I don't know, it's our thing, or if you want to go and go cold, that's up to you. But
Oh no, please, please. I like going second. I get to see how the game works, right?
right. So my game of the week this week is going to be this fun little thing that I found on drive-through, and I haven't actually bought it or read it yet, but this looks like fun, and this actually would be hilarious, I think, at some place like GamerNationCon. It's a game. This is a game called Werewolves. That is WERE-WOOFS! Exclamation point. Describes itself as a family-friendly tabletop role-playing game where you play a dog with a job. A normal dog, that is. You don't have thumbs. Well, sort of normal. You're a dog now, but you used to be a human. One day you were simply a regular person with a job, but then you woke up as a dog. You're not sure how this happened, but you're certainly going to find out. Either that, or you'll be chasing squirrels up trees. You are a dog now, after all. So it's a simple D6-based role-playing game. You can bark at the mailman. You can meet the new mysterious mutants, MEW, and use your old human skills to find out exactly what's going on. It's a little 24-page zine type thing. PDF will set you back not quite $8, but I'm sorry, this looks like a whole lot of hilarious fun.
That looks so like interesting. This looks like a really great one shot.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Or like we talk about weird ways to maybe you're playing a modern day game and you do an interlude episode in your campaign where you play the dogs of the neighborhood.
This seems very fitting. Very what's word? Beer and pretzels is
Oh
kind of like
yeah.
what I get.
Yeah, it's from a company called Leyline Press. Author is Alid Lawler. I don't know. I've never heard of them per se, but I mean, look, it's less than $10, and it looks like it would be very fun, and also sounds like it's designed to be able to play with kids, whatever, right? So I don't know. Looks like fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, family friendly is always good as well. Being able to pick it up and play, and especially one shots, I feel like for like what, $7 for a one shot, that seems completely reasonable. Especially if you be like, oh, like I'll go out and play games with like friends I haven't seen in forever, like as a weekend thing. And it's like, you know what, for a nice little one shot that we can have fun with, that seems like a great time to me.
Well, right, and the thing is too is like again, not knowing this specifically, but usually these are very kind of throw a premise down and see what happens. So they're basically infinitely replayable,
Mm.
even though they're theoretically just a one shot.
Yeah, I mean, you can always flavor it differently, right?
Right?
Once you get the vibe of how the mechanics work, it's like, oh, you know what? Maybe the mailman's the problem for today, or what, like what have you.
Well, right, and but I like the angles that you used to be a person and now you're a dog.
Yeah, I feel like that. I'm just curious what the like if there is a cause. I'm surely they have a cause for what turned you into a dog, right? And why that's now happened to you as the main character for this. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, but I don't know. So, like I said, that's going to be mine this week. Werewolves.
Mm.
All right,
Mine
your turn.
Mine is a little bit more reading.
Ah,
Not a ton. I apologize. There's a
oh, that's,
game called Fiasco. So a role playing game.
I have heard of Fiasco. I have never gotten to play it.
Oh, it's a blast. I've played it a handful of times. There's no GM, so there's no game master. We're all working together to make the lives of the characters in this story that we're going to do for about 3 to 5 hours miserable. Like these are people who are going to try to rob a bank. They're going to try to rob like the armory. They're just going to come up with a really bad idea. And whatever era we decide, sci-fi, medieval, present day, and we're going to see how horribly or incredibly like successful they are at this. Takes a lot of information from like movies like Fargo, and that kind of genre where it's people who are doing dumb things, people with a clever idea but dumb execution might be the best way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I like seeing characters that are kind of dumb try to like pull a heist or something. Like Ocean's 11's great, but what if they were all a little bit dumber and couldn't make it happen? You know. So it's a lot of fun. The type of game where you'll end up just kind of laughing and be like, well, I don't know how we got here, but I guess we're at this point.
It's the Bad News Bears meets the Bad Batch.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very much. Oh, that like it's a fun one. I definitely recommend it. It's worth playing. You're not building characters that'll last forever. They won't. Some of them probably won't make it through the end of the session, but you'll have fun playing it for sure if you have a friend group that enjoys the role play aspect of things.
Very cool. Yeah, like I said, that's one that's kind of been on my radar, but I've just never gotten around to doing anything with. But I hear a lot of people talk very highly of it, so that's
Yeah,
cool.
it is a game I have had some of the most fun playing and just kind of building characters with people, and then watching them fail to either pull off a heist or try to break out of kindergarten or whatever, whatever your plot for it might have been. But it's a lot of fun. And if you've got a good role play group, if you have a group that prefers the combat, you might not like it as much. But if they're all cool with role play and like can spend 4 hours almost just role playing, you'll have a blast.
Very cool. That's Fiasco. All right.
Yes.
Well, gee, any more comments? Anything else? Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to come talk with me. Like I said, I had a blast meeting you, hanging out with you and Nate and Noah at GNC. But yeah, anything else?
No, man, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to reach out to me and invite me on the show. I've had a blast. This has been a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll make time hopefully before the next GNC to play some games online.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I'd love to do that. Like you, just having met you, I'm like, oh, he'd be fun to play with. And then watching you play, I'm like, oh, he'd really be fun to play with. So, yeah, like I said, thank you so much. People, go check out Tabletop Empire. The Dark Underworld's actual play they've got going on is really, really fun and entertaining. Again, it's Star Wars RPG. It's a very Star Wars story, and look, it's very fun and entertaining. But we'll save any more details on that for when we have more of the people on. So, yeah, go out there, check it out. There's like 10 episodes to keep you busy until they get another episode out because, well, life happens. So with all that, look, thanks for listening. If you like us, come join the Discord. Look us up on, Facebook, uh, Blue Sky. Technically, we still have a Twitter X account, but I haven't posted on it, and I don't know how long. Um, all that stuff. If you really think we're cool and you want to toss us a couple bucks, we have a Patreon. Links for everything's down in the show notes. The Discord's probably the best place if you want to get a hold of us. I'm there all the time. Other Steve is around, although he's not as active on the Discord as I am. And with all that, just like to remind everyone to be kind to each other and get out there and play some RPGs.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast, on Discord at Me and Steve RPGs, and as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.